Welcome back, everybody, to another BFI Extras edition. This week, the wonderful commentator, Snik1e. Hello, Snik1e.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. I'm a big fan. Really enjoyed the podcast. Really glad you guys had me on.
Sorry, we have been
Based on what
talking
we said in the
some
pre,
things.
in the pre, no, you're not. I already know that's cap. But no,
we've sorry, just to preamble all of this, we've been spending a few minutes talking beforehand, and just Benny and I are very unhinged right now because it's getting
yeah,
towards the middle of the night for
yeah.
Snicky, and it's like early evening for us. So
I thought
these
if
are
I
the
started out with a lie, it kind of sets the pace,
yeah.
Yeah, you're
I never
not
really.
Everything
wrong,
from here on
actually.
out is just poor.
That was the galaxy brain move. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, Parks on the far side. You know him, you love him, and yeah, Snicky. Let's. I gotta ask you really quick. What? And it's kind of a generic question, so forgive me for asking it. But you're a somewhat recent commentator into the scene, I would say, right? Within the last, I want to say, like year and a half, if I remember right, about 2 years, maybe, right?
Yeah, well, kind of mainly started with Impact. I did a little bit of
Mhm.
university stuff before that for Oxford, and that. So I guess it was kind of halfway through 2021 is when I started, and then I kind of came into the Impact scene at the start of 2022 when that all started off.
So, what got you into commentating to begin with, like from the off?
That's a good question. Is I, there's kind of two answers to this because I didn't ever think about doing commentary. I played CS for ages and never really thought about it. But I used to make videos when I was probably I must have been about 8 or 9. And I made these videos where I would film Lego characters and commentate as if I was watching a football game with the Lego characters, if that makes sense.
I
And then
love that.
it was like, so it's kind of something that I used to do all the way back then, and I kind of got reminded of it, and I was like, maybe I could try casting some Counter Strike. How can I get into that? I started by doing a couple of demos of like some blast events and stuff like that, back in 2021, and yeah, then I basically got hooked off of that, and it was good timing that Impact started because that's been a lot of fun as well.
so where's
Uh,
Oxford? Where's Oxford in all this though? Because you mentioned you started at the university and then you hopped into Impact. So where kind of does Oxford come into this?
Yeah, so I did. So one of my friends, he goes to Oxford, and he casted with me first, just so I kind of had a person there to talk to as I was casting. It was my kind of my first time, so we just like streamed them to nobody. Um, and obviously he went to Oxford as well. He was part of the CS team for a little bit. So obviously there's like the national university leagues that they've got,
Right.
and so yeah, he was part of Oxford's team, and they needed somebody to cast because the initial person they had casting uh, stopped, and so I kind of took the reins from there, and I ended up doing like maybe 2 or 3 Oxford versus Cambridge derbies, which always brought the
yeah, that's
heat.
a big rivalry.
Yeah, they were a
Mhm.
lot of fun. Not quite a boat race, but yeah, no, that was a lot of fun, and yeah, I even got to do some stuff with like other people in the just general like university Oxford community, which it was a nice stepping stone, kind of like a fun environment with not a lot of pressure to grow into starting to cast, and yeah, it's that's kind of how it worked out.
So, two questions actually to follow up from that. How did you get into Impact then from there? And then also, what specifically drew you into like the North American side of this Impact scene as opposed to the European side?
Yeah, okay. I'll start, I guess, with Impact in general. Just because I used to go to when I was maybe 13 or 14. I used to go to quite a few Liverpool women's football games. They Chelsea women used to play very local to me, and so when Liverpool were playing them, I would go to watch those matches. Um, and that kind of got me uh, a little bit more knowledgeable about about women's sports and just the general the need for them and that kind of thing. And then when I got into esports, which was actually through Rocket League, there was a player called Karma, who she was the only woman I think in the tier 1 scene, and she played like right at the top, and she's a big inspiration to me as well. And so as I kind of came into Counter Strike as well around the 2017-18 mark, I started with Shroud actually, which is why I'm such a big NA fan more than anything else. That was kind of I think it was around the ESL One Cologne 2017 event is when I got into CS in general. So that was obviously a
Nice.
big thing for NA. Shroud specifically, I saw a lot of Shroud clips and I was like, oh my god, this guy's pretty good. And then from there, I think I distinctly remember, and you guys might know this clip that I'm going to talk about. Goose Breeder's 1v5 on Train when she was playing for, I
Yeah.
think the team was called Those Darn Canadians or something.
Yes. WESG qualifier. Yes.
Yeah, that was one of the first clips I saw of the women's Counter Strike scene, and that kind of got me interested in that as well because obviously I'd been interested in the armor in Rocket League before and the like women's football in real life sports. So yeah, and then at that time Goose was obviously on CLG Red, which kind of got me to being a bigger fan of them. And then as Impact started, that all kind of just tied in pretty well.
So then you go from starting an Impact and just going, hey, listen, I want to cast in these games. I want to cast my hero Goosebreeder over in NA. And so suddenly you're staying up until 2 a.m. every morning doing these cash cups on weekends. And then also, as of recently, we did season 3 together, the three of us, which was really cool. But what was your decision to basically just go, I like NA more than EU? It couldn't have been the timing. It couldn't have been.
I mean, like, yeah, you're right. The timing is a little bit it could be more optimal. The problem is kind of like around the time I'm finishing work, I'm working from home, which makes it a lot easier. I think if I wasn't working from home, it would be a lot harder. Obviously, I don't have to worry about transport, so I get more time, I suppose, to sleep. But yeah, like the EU stuff is generally timed around the kind of time of day where I'm like finishing work, eating, like taking my dogs out for a walk, and it's just like I don't know why, but I just never really feel like casting at that point. And the NA ones start. I mean, the cash cups start about 11 o'clock over here, and generally it's quick enough. Sometimes, I mean, I know I'm kind of what's the word? I'm renowned for having tech delays in every stream.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally it kind of works out well enough. Obviously there's been a couple of times, I think in one of the recent Red Dead Redemption games, now I can't ex-CLG games if you will, you could actually see the window behind me. You could see the light coming through from where the game had gone on for so long. But no, I mean, I think it's worth it.
I love it. As somebody who wakes up to do the Australian games, man,
Yeah.
those are the best kind of games, man. When it just because it becomes unhinged, but then also like it's different. I feel like there's not as much pressure to perform as a commentator. Like it's really weird. Like the North American, and this I'm going to segue this into a question eventually, right? But
Of course.
when we Park, you'll remember this when we commentated with Nessie Terrace
Yeah.
the one game, and she said, the Brazilian style of commentary is very different. And if you watch Liga Feminina or Serie B or Serie A or you watch Masters Feminina, you could tell that it's much it's like a casting couch or like with chairs and whatnot. Like it's very lax. It's like they had like Masters Feminina had like two couches and a giant love seat in the middle, and like it was 5 of them, and they were just there, all of them commentating on the same game, very relaxed. They would all build up and be like, "Whoa!" when everyone thought a knife or Zeus was going to happen, right? And it's like in what we know of commentating and like what we see on the ESL streams, it's very rigid, like buttoned up, professional. Like you have to build into rounds, and then you have to like let the tension dissipate in the mid parts of rounds and constantly build up and build up and build up with these little peaks. And it's like I guess, what do you find that commentating those games late at night are different than if you were to do, say, the actual Impact League? And also, where would you pin your personal style of commentary at?
Good question. I mean, obviously, more recently, we've kind of had a little bit more fun with some of the cash cups and stuff. As you say, we've kind of had it like a casting couch type thing. I very distinctly remember the one where we had like I think 4 or 5 of us,
4 of
all
us.
in.
It was
all in.
ridiculous.
all in
I
the
don't want to
challenge room.
remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main thing I kind of do in my casting, I like to think that I can keep track of the action and kind of talk and keep up the pace with. I've been told I talk quite quickly, which I think is probably true.
I would agree.
But I like to think that I can kind of keep up with the pace as it goes, and I'm not sure I'm too great at bringing like a massive amount of hype all the time. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like just being quick and keeping up with the pace of the game when it gets quick.
The pace
It's
car.
yeah, the pace. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting you said it because there's a clip. I would agree with you there. And Parks, I am going to throw it to you for a question, but I wanted to mention I would agree with you there. I think you keep up with the pace very well because there's a clip I remember of Upmind, and I love Upmind to death. Super phenomenal gentleman, right? And but there was a clip of him on Valorant where like I remember it was Icebox, I think, and like all bunch of stuff happens. You know how in that game abilities can just come in a flash, especially like during the retake, like all at once. And he's just like an absolute and
Yeah,
explaining
yeah,
every move, and eventually the round ends. And I'm like, that's a skill that he has that's incredible to have as a viewer and somebody who particularly doesn't know Valorant, right? Especially, I have no idea what he's just explained. Whereas, like stepping back and letting the action happen and just pointing out the one or two actual pivotal things that really change the round, I think is better. So I don't think you over commentate or talk too quickly. I don't think that's something that is necessarily a bad thing. I think you keep up with the pace quite well. But I wanted to mention that because there is a stress on catching everything for a commentator. Like, I just had it in League of Feminina when somebody goes, Kester, you didn't even commentate this round. Like it was an ace. And I'm like, well, yes, but it was an anti-eco ace. Like
yeah,
it was full Glocks, no armor, like, and it was an M4 spray down. Like,
yeah. Maybe
am
it
I
doesn't work out.
really getting hyped for that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, no, I'm
but
looking at the bracket during that round, So
yeah, I do like to kind of like there's points where if I'm doing a cast where I'm duoing with somebody and we're kind of switching up between play by play and color, I really enjoy kind of like being able to explain the intricacies of some rounds where obviously if the play by play is going and something is missed that would be like a really small detail. I love kind of picking up on that and how it affects rounds as well. It's kind of like it's really interesting when you look at like the finer details of some of the rounds. That's another thing I do really enjoy as well.
You know what? You speaking of duos and stuff. You've got you've been doing now casting for a year and a bit, in NA, and you've also been doing the X CLG Red streams. You were initially part of the crew for CLG Red streams. Now you're doing X Red streams. Um, Aside from that, is there much else that you're kind of looking towards in NA, or is it just kind of seeing what's out there and playing it by ear? What what else is happening for you casting wise, at least recently now? Because yeah, I mean, ESL Impact season 3 is done. So our kind of Wednesday Thursdays are now suddenly open for everything. Um, is there a lot in terms of what you're seeing? Like you're trying to step in and do more casting, or is it just kind of you're keeping it level right now and refining how you cast?
Yeah, so I mean I don't have I have less time at the moment than I thought I did, but obviously I'm starting to get to grips with some of the LCA stuff. I've got the packages. Shout out LCA hashtag
Shout
ad.
out LCA.
But yeah, it's something I haven't actually done a game yet, but hopefully yeah, once I get a little bit more time, because obviously those games, quite a lot of them are like the same time as the red matches.
Yeah.
I think they're,
yeah.
like generally about 2 or 3 in the morning. So at the moment, when I don't have as much time as I thought, um, it is kind of a shame that I haven't got to do them yet. But obviously, that will be a nice kind of stepping stone to keep going. Obviously, there's only impact every so often. There's still the cash cups, but as I say, they have kind of turned a little bit more fun than casting recently. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's just a case of just trying to do my own thing, hopefully, and see where that takes me, I guess.
This is a question I didn't write it down, Park, so forgive me for
That's
asking an
fine.
off the cuff question. But
How dare you?
Yeah.
yeah, how dare me? I know. I struggle a little bit personally because it's one of the things where it's like I could cast every weekend. I could cast every night with the ESEA games, even for the women, and it's like I choose not to because I have other hobbies I are interested. Have you started to find that clash and balance between? Because I know you're obviously in the racing league, right? The Super Formula League.
Shout out to the
Yeah.
Williams shirt.
Yes, shout out to the Williams shirt. So it is, but like, have you gotten to a point where there's this clash of hobbies now between casting and something else? And if you have, what have you done to reconcile the clash?
Yeah, it's kind of I guess that's where the time difference that we talked about with NA games kind of comes in, because the two, so I'm in two leagues at the same time now. One is like a touring car thing, and as you mentioned, the Super Formula as well. Um, and it's kind of a thing of, a lot of the time now I'm practicing for those, because both of the cars I haven't driven a whole lot of, so I do need to kind of put in a decent amount of practice, and then that will kind of, I also have a teammate who I'm kind of starting to work with. I've made like liveries and stuff for us, and we'll be working on setups, doing practice laps and stuff like that. So it's kind of not really related to Counter Strike at all. I feel like I'm going off on a
But
bit of a
that's a
tangent.
lot. People
This
don't
is
understand.
real.
Like
This
that
is
that is
real.
a
Yeah, yeah,
lot of time invested in, you know?
yeah. So it kind of means that like I'm tired by the point where I would be coming into casting NA games, and I'm also not having time to do EU stuff, because that's obviously during the time where I'm practicing or actually doing the races and stuff like that. And also I do travel to around the country to one of my friends races in real life in Mazda MX-5s, and so I say a couple of weekends. It's like 8 weekends a year, I think. We go up to the tracks to watch him race, because it's always fun. Um, so yeah, it kind of means that sometimes I don't have, I kind of have like everything is full, and I don't really have the time that I thought I did, um, which means sometimes. So when I know I'm doing a red game, I will actually have a nap from probably like 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock or something, which is
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the most efficient thing in the world, but it's better than staying up the whole time
Yeah.
until like sometimes gone 4 or 5 in the morning. But again, still worth.
I used to do the same thing with Challenger League. I'd come home at like 6 and nap until like you could tell you could ask Vincent even. I would nap until like 8 and get up and for the game, and it would just be like the game would be at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Yeah, it beats your body up after a while. But it's better than, like you said, staying up all the way through, because then
Yeah.
you're ready. You get to a point where you're ready to collapse if you don't get that nap in.
Yeah,
Um,
I've had some points where I'm like, in the earlier parts when I was doing impact stuff,
mhm.
um, and I was like staying up through the whole thing and getting to like really late, and I was like, what am I kind of clocked halfway through
Oh yeah,
some of the games, like,
you
what
lose
am I
it.
saying? I don't know what I've
Yeah,
said the
yeah,
last 5 rounds,
The
but
yeah,
amount of
yeah,
times I've like nearly fallen asleep on a cast, I'm just
yeah,
sitting there.
yeah.
I'm like, my eyes are fully closed. I'm not listening. I'm not watching anything at all. I'm just saying, yeah. And they win another round, and I'm like, my head's about to hit
Yeah.
my keyboard, and then I kind of tilt back in. I'm like, holy shit, what just happened? And then come in, and I'm like, oh, okay, nothing's happened. It's been 10
I get that
seconds.
problem a lot on
There's
Inferno.
there's times I have there's times I have dreams, and when I used to commentate like the 12 hours going to like Nerd Street in the land before
Yeah.
the pandemic, it would be like 1:30 in the morning, and I've come off like a 70-hour work week, and I'd be doing like Dignitas, right? And I would start to like fall asleep and dream, and I would talk my dream into the mic. So
Oh,
I've had people come in the chat and be like, why, like, it'd be
is he okay?
Dignitas playing on Nuke, and they're like, why are you talking about mac and cheese? It would just be the most random thing. I'll be like, I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
So it's time to go to bed.
Well, speaking about that, then, um, you've had a bit of time now in Counter Strike, and you've seen the impact side of things. You've kind of gotten a taste of what advanced and all that other stuff is, and you see all the big events. When it comes to Counter Strike as a game and as a whole ecosystem, I mean, we've kind of all noticed it. How do you feel about it? Is it oversaturated? Do you feel like it's kind of just got enough, or is it just like too busy? Because I know that's one thing we've seen burnouts a lot. I know a lot of like even the casters that we chill out with in LCA, few of them have come back and said, "Listen, like this is too many things going on. I can't do this." Like, have you noticed that at all yet, or?
I think it's something that I might start to notice more so once I'm doing matches with LCA. Although I do feel like I've seen ESCA are pushing. I don't know if they did 4 seasons a year before, but I'm pretty sure this year they're doing 4 seasons,
Yeah.
which may be more than
Yeah.
usual. As I said, I'm still relatively new. to that kind of thing. But yeah, it seems like there's a lot being pushed in. I feel like that kind of ties in with wanting to get events out of the way before CS2 releases, and then transferring across to that as quickly as possible. I don't think it's going to be a massive change, obviously, but I think maybe there might be some slight panic, I guess, on that and how quickly organizations will move over to the new game. But yeah, I think yeah, it's a shame to see as you say, burnout happening. But yeah, hopefully things can. I mean, yeah, hopefully things can kind of get better as maybe things will slow down a bit once CS2 kind of comes out as well. And yeah, I haven't experienced it massively myself yet, but I might start to get more of a taste of that once I start doing LCM. I hope not, of course, because
Yeah.
I love casting. It's I do very much enjoy it, but yeah, it does also suck.
Two
The burnout thing.
questions on that actually, because I kind of meant that in terms of the hobby thing. Like, do you think in terms of like, do you think wanting to do other hobbies will hold you back from maybe progressing as a caster to a higher level if you wanted to go there? But also, like, do you think that the field for commentating is also very oversaturated in CS? I feel like in CS it is a little bit because there's just such an abundance of talent in Counter-Strike, and it's such a huge game, and it's played like at so many different levels, like amateur to semi-pro to pro and everywhere in between, that you have commentators at all of those levels. So it's very common to run into really good talent no matter what level of commentary or what level of Counter-Strike you're commentating, right? But um do you think that CS is oversaturated in terms of the amount of talent that we have in the field?
Yeah, I think when you consider, as you said, how many levels it's being played at, and the fact that kind of like everything in ESEA is open IP for the leagues and everything, you will naturally
Yeah.
have that kind of thing where there are lots of people who want to do coverage, and then therefore lots of people who are good. And when you get so many good commentators, it's obviously hard for all of them to progress past it just being a hobby. Um, which is very, it's a shame, and it's a good, that's one of the things that LCA does well, is obviously giving kind of platforms to like up and coming casters, and giving them a chance to earn money whilst they're doing it. But yeah, I mean, I think that as you said about like hobbies getting in the way, I think they wouldn't so much if it was a little bit more stable. If I was at a point where I could do casting as a job more than a hobby, then obviously I could put some of the other hobbies on hold. Um, I'm sure, but yeah, at this point, I'm very much enjoying the racing that I'm doing as well, which kind of puts a little bit out of balance. But
Yeah.
obviously, I'll still be sticking around, especially for the Impact stuff, because I love that community.
Speaking of Impact,
Yes.
there's a very important thing happening very, very soon.
Is that?
Very important. It's a little tournament called Dallas.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I heard there's a
It's
specific
not a
English.
city. Not a city
No,
by any means, by the way.
there's I heard there's a very specific English person that's going to be making the hop across to come visit the humble little tournament there in Dallas. How excited are you for that?
I'm kind of like, well, I'm very excited to actually be there, but
Yeah,
it's the kind of the traveling and stuff. I'm a little bit nervous because so I went to Sweden,
yeah.
Jönköping for season 2 finals. That was the first time I've ever been abroad, and then obviously the second time I'll ever be abroad will be in a month's time, and that will be for Dallas, which I'm very excited. It'll be, I think, the US will be a little bit better in terms of like Uber and Lyft and that kind of thing. None of them work, and also my phone didn't work in
Oh my
Sweden.
god, yeah.
It was a little bit of a problem. But yeah, hopefully that kind of stuff will be fixed. And as an event, Dallas is going to be stacked. I know
Yeah.
Katowice was stacked. I think obviously Jönköping was a little bit less so compared to Katowice, and now Dallas is another tournament that's going to be super good. Yeah, such a high caliber of team. Even just in NA with Shimmer and how they've
Yeah.
progressed, I think it's going to be really, really exciting, the whole event, and I'm super stoked to come to the US for the first time as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, I hope.
Oh, it's gonna be great. We got to get you some of that deep southern barbecue too. I'm committed to do two things outside Impact. and one is get really deep Southern barbecue. So
He's-
everyone,
He made a list and like shared it with us, and we went.
it's two things.
That's a
It's
list.
not even-
It is 1 and it is 2 and it is in the. We have an LCA chat because we're a bunch of us are sharing. We're sharing an Airbnb together.
We're sharing an Airbnb.
Yeah. And so there's just like a list there. He's like, the 2 things I want to do. No, there was 3 because one of them was golf. You wanted to do
Well, yeah, but one of them's go to Impact. Like obviously, like no, I'm gonna go to Dallas
it was
for a
like
tournament.
golf.
Not
It was
go
like
to the tournament.
golf,
like,
deep barbecue, and
and
Impact.
and
That was
Impact.
it.
I mean, come on. And so, but no, I've heard Southern barbecue's good, and it's. I don't know if you've ever like smoked or like barbecued anything for like 8 hours. It's amazing. So
Also have to
They
make
do it-
sure to get the big
the big 10
the
gallon
big
hat.
10
Yeah.
gallon hats. Yeah.
Yeah, do the Meggy Weggy impersonation photo, like buy the eagle mask and put the 10-gallon hat on top. Like, just there you go. But I have one last question for you about because we are coming up to time, I believe, here, Parks. But
Yeah.
one last, and that is, let's get your Dallas prediction. Who wins the LAN?
Well, Red Dead Redemption, of course.
There
No
you go.
No, I being honest, I'll say probably. You know what? I probably could have thought about this, but
Take your
prior
time.
to this.
Think about
it. Yeah, let's say it's interesting because I don't know how good HSG are going to be.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a very big question.
That's true.
Like, the thing is, obviously, Nigma have their undefeated record. However, they've looked a little bit more shaky in recent times.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna say Navi. I think Navi.
Ooh.
That's a
Navi
good
Joker.
pick. That's a good
Yeah.
pick. I like it. I like it. If you were gonna say HSG, I was gonna be like, I'm buying you like dinner, everything at Dallas. Like, I would love to see HSG win that LAN.
That'd be
I'm gonna say B4, and I'm gonna save exactly why for our primary.
Yeah, I was gonna say
episode.
save that,
That's a
please.
tease. That's a tease. Okay, that's a tease.
You put a tease in a bonus episode. How weird are you?
Listen, you gotta listen. Okay, all the episodes are great. I don't know why anybody wouldn't watch this. You know what I mean? Like, come on. But yeah, no, I like that pick. I think they're playing good Counter Strike. I gotta say. So, Parks, you got any further questions for Snik1e?
Ooh, so many, but so little time, right? No, I think honestly, I think you're the first person we've had on that we talk to all the time, and I mean going back to the season 3 all the season, like we did the community cast together, the 3 of us. I mean, get your thoughts on the production side of that, because the hot button issue that we're finding now with ESEA is everything is a play cast. There are no more GoTVs.
Yeah.
Are you excited for that when you eventually do start casting, that everything is going to be as bad as it was for ESL Impact?
I'm so pumped. I've never been more pumped in my life. No, I mean the Impact casts were at least fun because we had obviously you behind the scenes. Obviously now they can hear what you're saying, but when we did the Impact community streams, there was a lot of noises or just offhand comments. And you broke us a couple of times.
Oh,
as did Benny.
It was
When he
glorious.
takes off the sunglasses.
What was you know what? Actually, I got a great question.
You don't gotta bring that up.
That
again.
video is amazing, and I still have I have it on my computer. I'm gonna go back and like retweet that after this. I think I'll go back and just retweet that and be like,
Why?
I remember
No.
the old days. Speaking of that though, what was your favorite memory of ESL Impact Season 3? Just overall, it doesn't have to be when you were doing the casting. It could just be something you watched, something you saw.
Honestly, I really it was kind of it's kind of I guess it's kind of a sad moment. I really enjoyed the whole community coming together for the last dance for CLG.
Yes.
In their last game where they were officially CLG. That was yeah, it's kind of obviously it sucks, but at the same time it was kind of nice to see everyone band together. And yeah, that was pretty cool. But no, I'll say the whole season was a highlight because I got to do it with you guys.
Oh, you pander too
Oh.
much. You pander too much.
No,
All right.
I can't ask another question after that.
No, that you
I
can't.
think that's the cherry on top right
That's
there.
perfect. You have any shout outs you want to say, Snik1e, before we let you go so you can go sleep?
Well, just a shout out to everyone in the Impact community for being so welcoming, especially to a Brit. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyone involved. No specific names because I know I'd miss somebody out, but yeah, everyone's been so great, and it's been a lot of fun. And I hope to continue on for season 4 and beyond.
Definitely. I look forward to it as well, and I look forward to maybe even the Impact stream when we get to Dallas, honoring you with a monitor check on Inferno. We'll see if we get that. But that is Snik1e. Follow them on Twitter, please. Excellent commentator covering the North American Impact scene. And for Parks, Snik1e, myself, thank you for watching. We will see you in the next episode. Take care.